In the headlines, Supreme Court dismisses PDP's suit challenging double nomination by Kashim Shettima. Police deploy personnel to strategic locations, divert traffic in Abuja ahead of inauguration. Gunmen invade Imo community, kill monarch, one other. And on the foreign scene, militant Al-Shabaab group attacks Ugandan troops based in Somalia. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I am Abdurrahman Umar. Thanks for joining. And now the news in full. The Supreme Court has struck out a suit instituted by the opposition PDP seeking disqualification of the Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima over alleged double nomination. The party sought the disqualification Tinubu-Shettima joint ticket for the 2023 presidential election on account of double nomination, contrary to the provision of Electoral Act 2022. Noel Samson reports that the judgment now clears the cost for the inauguration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima slated to hold on Monday. The report.
The appeal was brought by the People's Democratic Party through their counsel, Mike Ozokome, SEN, alleging that Shettima had double nomination as senatorial candidate for Borno Central Senatorial District and Vice President candidate under the All Progressive Congress. The Apex Court held that apart from the fact that the PDP lacked requisite jurisdiction to institute the suit, the party also failed to provide sufficient evidence against Shettima to prove its allegations.
The Supreme Court have dismissed our appeal, that we have no local standard, and that irrespective of the unlawfulness of what APC did, we are not members of APC and we cannot challenge it. Yes, well, this is the Supreme Court. We can't, like I told them in court, we can't appeal to God. We will stop here. We are bound by their judgment.
However, counsel to APC, Babatunde Ogala, SEN, expressed pleasure with the decision of the Apex Court.
I must commend the courts, the Supreme Court, and not just the Supreme Court, but all layers of court that this matter has gone through. You will notice that the court had said the issue ordinarily would have been settled on locus, but they went into it just to let the record straight and to make a policy and to send a message loud and clear to the whole world that this kind of frivolous actions will not be entertained by this court. The matter is settled. This is the highest court of the land. Shettima was validly nominated in full compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Law and the Electoral Act and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and it has also been confirmed that he was indeed well and validly nominated.
Justice Adamu Jauro, who delivered the lead judgment, imposed a fine of 2 million naira on the PDP for interference into the internal affairs of the All Progressive Congress and the conduct of its primary elections and nomination of its candidate. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, said the Supreme Court's dismissal of his party's suit against the All Progressive Congress, APC, will not discourage him from seeking justice. Atiku, who made this comment on Friday via his official Twitter page, said the party's legal team are primed to robustly prove that the election of February 25th was fraudulent, did not comply with the constitutional requirements and the electoral guidelines of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The PDP flag bearer added that the announced winner was not even qualified to contest the poll. The former vice president urged his supporters to exercise patience and conduct themselves peacefully as the party diligently conducts its litigation at the Presidential Election Tribunal Court. Ahead of the presidential inauguration scheduled for Monday, May 29th, the Federal Capital Territory Police Command says it has deployed human and material resources across the nooks and crannies of the territory to ensure that the event is safe and peaceful. A statement issued on Friday morning by the command's spokesperson, SV Josephine Adi, said the deployment consisting of all intelligence and tactical assets at the command's disposal is solidified with interagency collaboration. The statement said the move was born out of the need to avert any form of threat on the nation's democratic process. According to the PPRO, the strategic operational deployment is characterized by visibility policing across the territory, stop and search duty, intelligence-led raids on black spots, surveillance, vehicular foot patrol, and diversions at strategic points, namely. She said the Commissioner of Police FCT Command, Haruna Garba, equally alerted the residents of proposed fireworks scheduled to take place on the eve of the inauguration at the City Gate and the Millennium Tower to usher in the new administration. In the meantime, Borno State Governor Umar Zulum has dissolved the State Executive Council and boards of parastatals, as well as disengaged older political appointees to mark the end of his first term in office. The governor, during a valedictory session with the cabinet in Maiduguri, appreciated cabinet for sacrifice, commitment, loyalty, and also seek for forgiveness for his hot-tempered approach in course of running the administration. He observed that the first time was challenging because of the insurgency, but expressed satisfaction with the administration's agenda and efforts for the people of Borno State, whom he said the government enjoyed their support.
Under a very fragile environment, it's not easy. Working under this environment, it's not easy, especially during the year 2019, 2020, 2021. It has never been easy, battling with the insurgency. On this note, once again, I want to express my deep appreciation. And our human being, in the course of discharging my duty as the Chief Executive of the state, I must have erred or offended some of you. And therefore, I do hope that you will forgive my shortcomings. On my own part, I think it is well known for almost all of you. Yes, many can say I'm somebody who is hot-tempered. That's my nature and I cannot do otherwise. But again, I don't go to my bed keeping somebody in my heart or in my mind.
And now on security, gunmen have killed the traditional ruler of Also Obodo in Oguta local government area of Imo State, Eze Victor Ijuoma. The traditional ruler was killed alongside the traditional prime minister of Isama of Mbele community in the council. Reports say the two traditional leaders were killed in two attacks in separate locations on Thursday evening. A source from Also Obodo said that the killers accosted the traditional ruler at Umuamaka Junction in the neighboring Izombi town and slayed him inside his car, setting his body ablaze. The traditional prime minister Mbele, whose name was not available, was said to have been killed in his town. Residents of the two communities have fled their homes for fear of further attacks. Police Public Relations Officer ASP Henry Okoye told newsmen he was yet to be briefed on the incident. The Lagos State Police Command has paraded 40 suspects for engaging in armed robbery, stealing, kidnapping, and cultism. The parade of the suspects took place at the police officer maze in Ikeja. The report.
Parading the suspects, the command's public relations officer, Benjamin Hudenyi, said the command recovered 8 arms, 16 live ammunition, 6 vehicles, 1 mini yellow bus, and 1 motorcycle. Others are 2 axes, 9 generators, 7 TV sets, 2 grinding machine, 2 knives, 1 home theater, 27 phones, hard drugs, a bag of rice, and decomposing human hands.
We also have a case of conspiracy and armed robbery. These people specialize in attacking people in Ikorodu, and they've been able to cut away so many motorcycles, electronics, laptops, even cell phones. But we're able to swing into action, and we recovered some of these things. We have some iPhone Pro Max, some iPhone 7, and some Samsung phones. They are also here. Conspiracy, this is a case of conspiracy, receiving of stolen property, and stealing. So our operatives were able to arrest the trio of Emeka Kalu, 52 years of age, Emeka Jefferson, 46 years of age, and Christian Oda, age 35. This gang specializes in breaking into shops and stealing packed vehicles.
Udenyin further stated that their investigation also led to the arrest of a 74-year-old woman who is engaged in receiving and selling of stolen generators and other electronic items. The police public relations officer said the arrested suspected cultists came from Ikorodu area of the state.
We also have a case of conspiracy, kidnapping and unlawful possession of human arms. So we arrested these people with human arms. Right in Ikorodu, they were going on a motorcycle, and the police, based on reasonable suspicion, accosted them. Immediately they sighted the police, they ran into the bush, but were able to follow in hot pursuit and were able to get them arrested and recovered the human arms. This happened in Ikorodu, and our investigation revealed that one of the suspects was actually our suspect some years back and was detained in our cell, but when NSAS happened, he escaped from the cell. So far back then during the NSAS protest, he escaped, but this time around, while committing another crime, he was arrested.
Udenyin said the Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, Idowu Owohunwa, has assured Lagosians that the command will do everything operationally possible to ensure that crime and criminality are brought to the barest minimum in the state.
The Lagos government on Thursday tendered 3 documents in evidence against 4 employees of Chrisland schools charged with involuntary manslaughter of a 12-year-old student, Whitney Adeniran. Ademoye Adewale, Kuku Patai, Belinda Amao, and Victoria Nwatu are standing trial on a 2-count charge of involuntary manslaughter and reckless negligence acts at the Ikeja Division of the Lagos High Court. The student Adeniran slumped and died during the school's inter-house sports at the Agege Stadium on February 9th. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Babajide Martins, tendered the documents while leading witness father, Adeyemi Adeniran, in evidence. Justice Oyindamola Ogala admitted the documents in evidence as there was no objection from the defense counsel. The deceased father told the court that his daughter left home on February 9th, healthy and hearty, for the school's inter-house sports. He said his wife was at the inter-house sports but was not informed that her daughter had been taken to a hospital when the alleged incident occurred. The judge adjourned the case until June 1st for the continuation of cross-examination of the witness. The Muslim Student Society of Nigeria has called on federal government to ban primary and secondary school textbooks with sexually explicit material in its letter to the Federal Ministry of Education. The society warns that sexually explicit material could corrupt the minds of children. Hamid Oyebade files in the report.
The Amir of the Muslim Student Society of Nigeria, B-Zone Kozim Odedeji, said some textbooks meant for children in primary and secondary schools contained sexually explicit materials. Odedeji said some of the textbooks promote abortion, masturbation, and immoral sexual behaviors.
There are things that are better left for the parents and the religious leaders to handle. So there are things that can unnecessarily sexualize our children. So issues bordering on abortion, issues bordering on safe sex, and some other things, lewd things like that. So we believe these children are too young to be exposed to this kind of information.
Some parents in Osun State agreed with MSSN, saying that sex education should be left for parents to handle at home rather than the school.
And in Islam, it is totally, abhorred that such subjects should be made public discussion, even among the elderly, not to talk of children who do not know, anything yet. So to create such a impression in young minds like that is very, very deplorable.
Sex education should be taught at home, not in school. The parents know the level of their children, because teaching them in the school, we make them to expose to some of these bad things.
When they taught the students in the class, the students may like to practicalize what they were taught in the class, so that after the school hour, they may find somewhere to practicalize what they have been taught in the class, which can cause harmful to the children. So it should be left for the parents, not that it should be taught in the school.
The MSSN said inclusion of sexually explicit materials in the textbooks is a threat to morality of the children and an attack on cultural and religious values.
The first thing we want is that all these books that contain all these materials should be recalled from the market. So we want them to be recalled from the market so that they will not be in use again. So, and at the same time, we want the curriculum to be reviewed so all those contents will not be necessary again. So, and we want the abolition of sexual education in our schools, in our primary and secondary schools.
The society is worried about the declining discipline, examination malpractices, and immorality, among other vices. Amid Ojegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
All right, you are watching Trust News Update. Coming up shortly after the break. Federal government provides succor for flood victims. For details of this and more, do stay with us.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is News Update on Trust TV. Now we take a look at the recap of our top stories. Supreme Court dismisses PDP's suit challenging double nomination by Kashim Shettima. And police deploy personnel to strategic locations, divert traffic in Abuja ahead of inauguration. Now moving on to more stories. The House of Representatives has urged the federal government to direct the National Council on Climate Change in collaboration with relevant ministries to immediately implement to reduce the impact of climate change in the country. This resolution followed the unanimous adoption of a motion moved by Sam Onwobo from Abia State at Thursday's plenary. Moving the motion, Onwobo said there was a devastating impact of climate change in the world, particularly in Nigeria, with desertification racing southward at a speed of 0.6 km per annum, gully and coastal erosions destroying communities and farmlands, and drying of Lake Chad. The lawmaker expressed worry that except Nigeria takes necessary measures to reduce the impacts of climate change in the country, the conditions-induced calamities will continue.
Also cognizant that the industrial sector contributes a high percentage of greenhouse gas emissions in Nigeria. Hence, the need to develop the capacity for implementing a carbon credit scheme to incentivize the decarbonization of the industrial sector in Nigeria. Observes that carbon credit is a policy where industries are encouraged to reduce their carbon footprint, to earn calculated carbon credit per ton of carbon, while industries which exceed emission threshold are sanctioned with fines. Therefore, the carbon market is a trading platform whereby carbon credits earned by one industry can be purchased by another to make up for their pollution.
Federal government, through the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has distributed relief materials to the 2022 flood victims in Delta State. Jonathan Awenye reports that the relief materials at the State Emergency Management Agency's warehouse were handed to the state government for the distributions to the victims. His report.
The 2022 flood disaster affected 17 out of the 25 local governments of Delta State. In the wake of the devastation, hundreds of homes, farmlands, schools, hospitals, and communities were submerged. Since then, the affected families have been left distraught. With this response from the federal government, things are beginning to change.
The federal government, through the President Muhammadu Buhari, has achieved that sense of awareness that it is important for the government to come to the aid of the people that were so affected by the flood. And hence, we have flagged off these presidential palliatives that will be distributed to the people so affected.
Yes, the role of the state is to ensure that the materials will get to the beneficiary communities. Those are the areas that were actually impacted by the flood.
Expectedly, the Delta State government is full of praise. Receiving the items, the director of the Delta State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, says the materials will put smiles on the faces of the victims.
And we are at the state level hoping that this thing, like we have promised them, will be distributed as they have highlighted. And they already draw up a chart of the distribution profile. That is what we are there to, and ensure that these items get to the victims as requested.
More relief materials are expected in the coming weeks. Jonathan Awenye for Trust TV News.
And now on the foreign scene, the militant Al-Shabaab group on Friday morning carried out an attack on a Ugandan troops base of the African Union Transition Mission ATMIS in Bulamaria district in Lower Shabelle region in Somalia. The attack began shortly after morning prayers. It started with a large explosion believed to be an explosives-laden vehicle. Bulamaria is about 110 kilometers, 68 miles from the capital, Mogadishu. Residents reported that after the big explosion, 2 more explosions occurred in the camp before a fight started between the Ugandan troops and the attackers. Al-Shabaab said they captured the camp and killed dozens of ATMIS soldiers, but there has been no independent confirmation of the group's claim. ATMIS says its forces are currently assessing the security situation in the area, but no word yet from the Somali government regarding the attack. Ugandan Army spokesperson Felix Kuleye told Kenya's Daily Nation that the military was proving the attack. He blamed foreign insurgents for the raid without giving further details. The actual damage caused by the attack is not yet known. And in sports, Bendel Insurance will take on Sunshine Stars in the key fixture of the 2023 Nigeria Federation Cup. The encounter promises to be an interesting affair following the two teams' impressive performance in the competition this session. Both teams will lock horns at the Awka City Stadium on Sunday. In the other quarter-final fixtures, Giant Killers Warri Wolves will take on Lobby Stars at the Otumba Defo Dina Stadium. Ijibode Plateau United will face Kwara United at the Area 3 pitch Abuja, with Rangers battling it out with Doma United at the Akure Sports Complex. All the matches will be played this weekend. With that, we have come to the end of Trust News Update. Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms and our YouTube live stream. I am Abdurrahman Omar. Thanks for watching and bye for now.